Fred Katz, how would you use the last 1 to 2 roster spots? An experienced vet, a Daquan Jeffries, Archidiacono type, a Westchester guy you want to reward? That's a great question. I don't really have an obvious answer to this that comes to mind. That's a very good question. I mean, they run now how many deep? If you count Sims, that's 12. Taj is 13.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 12 NBA players. I'll put Taj as like a half. I mean, we know whoever it is not going to get time.
You know, right? I think we should ask one other person about this if possible. So we're gonna add Fred Katz after his super chat. We're gonna add him to the stage. Welcome everybody, Fred Katz of The Athletic.
Set me up, you mother.
Guys, I have to say, I think I might be the first super chatter to send in money only to just pop up on the screen anyway.
And answer your own question?
Yeah, my hair is insane. This is just the hair that I slept with. If I even slept, I have not showered yet today. So we should all be very happy that we're doing this over video and not in person. It's been a heck of a day.
It has been a heck of a day. I imagine you have a busy one ahead of you, as do all of us. Can I get you to answer your own question?
I don't know the answer. That's why I sent it in. I've been sitting around thinking of a million different things. I honestly, I don't know what they're gonna do. I was just wondering specifically with Taj because I was thinking about Taj because if Mitchell Robinson does come back, they're gonna have Sims, they're gonna have Mitch, they're gonna have Hartenstein, they're gonna have Precious. I understand that they love Taj, Tibbs loves Taj, but from a roster management standpoint, it just isn't really going to make very much sense. And so I can't really see it being Taj, but I could see them going the direction of maybe not like a Kyle Lowry at this point because they're kind of deep and I don't see why Kyle Lowry would want to go there when he might not mean being in the rotation at this point after they made the trade. Maybe just like a older vet who is just like on the market right now. Like, I don't know, like I'm not reporting this at all. I'm just naming someone who fits the description, like Danny Green or something like that. I could also see them wanting to reward a Westchester guy and saying this guy works really hard and has something and is good with the culture and knows the culture and all that. So bring him in at the end of the bench, kind of like, you know, they've done with like Daquan Jeffries. I don't know. I haven't asked anybody. There are other more pressing topics of the day.
My guess would be if there weren't a like a cap hit for these minimum players, that the Knicks would try to get someone who was, say, like a vet who had several years where they could inflate the salary to flip, but it doesn't really come in handy because it's capped at the second year terms of service or years of service. So I agree. I don't really know. My thought process here is the players that you can more easily convince to sign and then flip might be the Westchester guys, because of the fact that the Knicks have shifted younger. They've mostly wanted to bring in players who are not in their 30s. I'm sure there are vets around that you could get who aren't quite like Daquan Jeffries is. I don't know if I'd call him a vet, so to speak, but he's had enough cups of coffee where he'd qualify as that. So anyone that they can get to agree to a non-guaranteed contract next year, but you have to figure most players on the buyout market, except for, you know, the Daniel House Juniors of the world or any other guys like Kyle Lowry, that they would sign up for that second year either way.
Yeah.
So someone suggested Derrick Rose if he gets bought out by Memphis, but again, he makes a lot of money because he's on the older side. So yeah. I mean, you could bring any of these guys in for like a minimum. I could see any of it. I honestly don't know. I can't believe that I came on just to discuss 15th man stuff.
I also appreciated how specific your contribution was. Like, was there an art behind that? Because typically people would just do, okay, great. I just want to know.
No, there's never anything purposeful about anything Fred does.
No, there's never anything purposeful. That's absolutely true. I just throw things out there. I say whatever's on my mind.
Exactly.
I do have like a legitimate question to ask the insider if we can wrap up with that. We're done with super chats. We're good.
Great.
So just like from start to finish, when you got word that this is where the Knicks were headed, Are you surprised that they were able to get this type of deal done, or has this been brewing for weeks, do you think?
I don't, depends on how you define brewing. I think, look, it's been well reported everywhere that the Knicks have been very interested in Alec Burks. And the thing with Bogdanovich was that the impression Detroit was always giving everybody was that they didn't want to part with him if they weren't getting back a first round pick. Obviously, they ended up making a trade where they didn't get back the first round pick. From what I gather, Detroit really likes Grimes, feels really good about Grimes. And I don't know if they explicitly were like, we value him as a first round pick, but I do think in terms of the way they operated, I think they were like, okay, well, Quentin Grimes on a rookie scale deal, and we view him as the talent of a first round pick and somebody who can come in and help and play both sides and add shooting. They've obviously been after shooting. Like they're a 6-43 team that just traded a top 32 pick for Simone Fontecchio at 27-year-old. 27?
They got their 7th win last night. They're 7.
Don't deprive them of a valuable win.
Of course.
How dare you?
7-43. 7-43.
You weren't watching Pistons versus Kings last night?
You know what's amazing? I was watching Pistons versus Kings last night.
That's the more impressive part, Jeremy, is that he actually does know they have 7 wins. He just didn't remember.
Yeah. I sat there, watched the whole damn thing. I watched Killian Hayes hit a buzzer beater in his final second quarter of his Pistons career. It was a heck of an evening. I think the Pistons, though, did value Grimes kind of as that first rounder. I think they like him a lot. They view him as part of their future now and something to build forward with. I would not be surprised if they were able to maybe come to some sort of an agreement this summer or I mean, maybe it's too early for that, but I do think the intention is like keep him around for the long term. And as for Bogdanovich, I think the Pistons eventually kind of came off of that first round requirement as well. I'm not really surprised by it. I think this is something that really built momentum. It was discussed, and to my knowledge, it really built momentum Wednesday night. Like I started to hear about it last night as a real growing possibility into Thursday morning. And that was partly because I think Toronto started to talk to Utah about Bruce Brown. And when they initially started talking Bruce Brown with Utah, a lot of those conversations were about bringing in Brown to Utah, but it was also about Toronto really wanting Olynyk. And I guess at some point that those conversations morphed into another type of Olynyk trade in which they end up bringing in Agbaji and changing things around. And Bruce Brown, as of now, is still in Toronto. So I think it's like, I think the Knicks then put their concentration there. They want guys who can shoot. They want guys who fit the culture. And it's not a surprise they ended up with these guys. They were on the radar.
So inadvertently, you answered my follow-up question, which is good because you and John have to go to the putback. But my follow-up was going to be, did they pivot to Bogey because things broke down in Toronto and they're asking price for Bruce Brown?
So I think that's possible. I don't know for sure if that's their reason, but if you line up the timeline, that seems possible. I also think it is something that they feel like they need to do because they are unsure about OG Anunoby's injury at this point.
Yeah.
And I think they made all of a sudden the calculus change to where it was like, you want to bring in somebody who is a backup ball handler, who can settle the offense when Brunson's off the floor or when Brunson's not playing for whatever reason, who maybe can play alongside him and can act as that sort of guy. And now, like, they're sending out one rotation player whose minutes were admittedly squeezed, and they're bringing in 2. So we can do the math there, right? Like, they're telling us something. Somebody who plays Bojan Bogdanovich's position might miss more time than just tonight's game. And we don't know that for sure. But I think I don't even know if the Knicks know that for sure yet, but I think there's concern. It's something they're preparing for.